Oral questions. Questions orales. L'honorable.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. After 9 years, this Prime Minister has doubled debt, doubled the cost of housing to the extent that the cost of a monthly mortgage payment in Quebec is $1,055 higher than it was 5 years ago. That's a 74% increase. And there's 2 million Canadians that have to go to food banks when this government is wasting our money and the government is paralyzed by this cover-up of a $400 million scandal. What is this Prime Minister doing? He's saving his skin and his own members. Can he trigger an election? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that the Conservatives are starting with a question with respect to the Canadian economy, because I think that each of us can be happy that the inflation levels in September were at 1.6%. This is a great success for all Canadians. It will truly improve the life of Canadians, but the Conservatives don't want to talk about Canadian successes. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Speaker, when Canadians are going through hell with doubling of housing costs and out of control cost of living, what is the Prime Minister doing? He's trying to save his own skin, save his own members. And they're in a rebellion now. So he's not working for Canadians. He's working to save himself. It's strange. Even if the Liberals don't really have trust in this Prime Minister, the Bloc leader continues to have trust in this Prime Minister. Will the PM trigger an election finally so we can fix what he broke? The Honourable Government House Leader. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The question is why the Bloc leader, or the rather Conservative leader, is obstructing the House of this work. We won 2 confidence votes, and it's only the Conservatives that don't want to have another vote because they'll lose once again, because this House does not have confidence in the Leader of the Opposition.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This weekend in Cloverdale, 15,000 people lined up in the pouring rain for the hopes that they might get a few rejected potatoes. It was Ugly Potato Day in that city. And 15,000 British Columbians are too hungry and desperate that they needed to go and collect those rejected foodstuffs. 2 million Canadians are lined up at food banks. There are 1,400 homeless encampments in Ontario today. And what is the Prime Minister doing? Working to save his political skin from his revolting caucus. This can't go on. Will he call a carbon tax election now?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I would really hope that every single MP in this House would agree that in our great country, no one should ever go hungry. But when Conservatives talk about the most vulnerable, they are crying crocodile tears. And how do I know that, Mr. Speaker? I know that because they have had the gall to vote against a national school food program, a program that will feed 400,000 Canadian kids. How can they look themselves in the face when they oppose feeding Canadian kids?
Yes, that's right.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
That program, though it has costed millions, has not fed a single hungry child. It has fed bureaucracy, which is all it ever was intended to do. Meanwhile, 2 million people are lined up at food banks. We've got 15,000 people that will line up for a, quote, ugly potato because they can't afford to eat. We have diseases like scurvy that are back. And 1 in 4 kids go to school hungry after 9 years of this Prime Minister, yet his priority is saving his political career from his revolting caucus. This cannot go on. Will he call a carbon tax election today?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are damning themselves with their own words. I was at a school in downtown Winnipeg on Friday. I was there with Premier Wab Kinew, and we gave those beautiful, wonderful children some bannock, a little carton of milk, some jam, some butter, and a banana. That was not bureaucracy that fed those kids. That was the deal we've done with Manitoba. The Conservatives are against feeding kids.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Are you kidding me? She says that Canadians should be happy that while 1 in 4 kids go to school hungry, while 2 million people line up at food banks, while scurvy is making a comeback after 9 years of this government, Canadians should be grateful that she showed up with a few snacks and a photo op at one school. Mr. Speaker, this is the same finance minister who has just blown back $7 billion past her deficit target, meaning more inflation and higher rates. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister hides in the fetal position under his desk. Will he call a carbon tax election now?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we have clearly knocked the Leader of the Opposition off his game this week. Because how can he have the temerity to talk about actual meals fed to actual children as bureaucracy? That tells you how cynical and how low these Canadians go. And then he talks about inflation. Mr. Speaker, it's been in the Bank of Canada's target range for 9 months in a row. It fell below 2% in September.